Right, we're now going to look at averages from frequency tables. So we know how to work out averages from a list of data for the mode, median, range, and mean. So now we'll look at how we can do it from a table. So if we take a look at this first question here, it says Rosie had 10 boxes of drawing pins. She counted them and put them into categories. So we either have 29, 30, 31 or 32. We're given the frequency of each of them. So we want to work out the mean number of drawing pins. So the way we do that is rather than counting the 2 29s, 5 30s and so on, we can now just multiply across and divide that total by the total of the frequency. So we're just going to use a little bit of a different notation. So we're going to label the first column as x, so we're finding the mean of x, and the second column is f. So therefore when we multiply across, we have an fx column. So we're going to multiply across, so we start off with 29 times 2, which will give us a value of 58. 30 times 5 is 150, 62, and then 32. Total of these, we get 302. It already told me what the total frequency is in the question, which was 10. So your mean is these two columns, your fx column over your f column. So 302 over 10, which is 30.2. And if it asks you to round in the question, you'll round down to 30. And that's the mean here. Next, we've got another table. So once again, the first two we've taken a look at today are discrete data. So over here we have 20 students. So we know the total of this column here is 20, which we'll label as F, and the first one is X. First question, write down the modal number of goals scored. So the most number of goals, for that we look at the frequency. The highest frequency is 9, which comes from one goal, so that is your mode there. Next, work out the range of the number of goals scored. The highest is 4, the lowest is 1, so our range is going to be 3. And then finally we're working out the mean number of goals scored. So similar to the previous question, we need an fx column and we're going to multiply across. 9, 6, 15, and then 12. When we total these, we get 42. So once again, the mean is 42 divided by 20. And then this gives us a value of 2.1, which if they ask us to round, we might have to leave us 2. But for now, we'll leave it as 2.1 and then write 2 after, just in case you have both answers. Next, so now we're looking at group data. So this is data for continuous measurements, like time. So since we have a lot of times here that for the first column, which is 0 to 10, it could be like all ones, 1.2s, 1.3s, and so on. So to avoid making a long table, we put them into groups. Now it says Bob asked 40 of his friends, so we know the total frequency is 40. Now the problem here is when we're trying to work out the mean, we can't label the first column as x since we can't times by a range of values. So what we do instead, we assume that across the range the frequency is proportional, and we just work out the midpoints of each range instead. So we have a new column called midpoints, and this is going to be our x column, and then we'll have f of x. So you add the two numbers 0 plus 10 over 2, so we've got midpoint of 5, 15, 25, 35, and 45, and then we multiply across. 3 times 5 will give me 15, 8 times 15 will give me 120, 11 times 25 will give me 275, 9 times 35 is 315, and then 9 times 45 is 4/5. So let's total these. This gives us a total of 1130. Once again, to work out the mean, it's the fx column over the f column. So it's 1130 over 40. This gives us a value of 28.25, and since we're dealing with continuous data, we don't need to round this. So the mean is 28.25 minutes. Alright, next, so same question here, but this time we're working out the median. Now the median is going to be in one of these groups here. So in order to work it out, we need to work out what values in each group. The way we do that is we add a CF column, so a cumulative frequency column. So this is when you add the frequencies on after each other. So we start with 3, we then add 8 to get 11, 22, 31 and 40, which is what we needed here. What these columns basically tell us, the first row is all the values on 3, the next row is 4 to 11, 12 to 22, 23 to 31 and then 32 to 40. The way to work out the median, now it's roughly in the middle, but the formula you would use to work out the median when you're estimating just where it is and not the exact value is n plus 1 over 2, n also being the sum of the frequencies. So in this case it's 40 plus 1 over 2, which is 20.5. So it's in between the 20th and 21st values. So if we look at our CF column, the second row is all the values from 4 to 11, but the third is all the values from 12 to 22. Since that includes both 20 and 21, it's going to be in this column here. So our median is going to be right exactly as the inequality is given, 20 to 30. And that's your answer there. Alright, final question here. So we've got a question here, we're going to work out both the mean, mode and median. Now once again, because it's group data, we need a midpoint column. So then we label that X. So it's 55, 65, 75, 85 and 95. And then once again, we're going to multiply across this F column by the X column using our calculators. So first value we get is 275. Then 585. Then 1650. Then 2295. Then 1615, and then let's total the fx column and the f column. So the fx column gives me a total of 6420, and the f column gives me a total of 80. Once again, to work out the mean, so we'll label x, you do fx over f, so the sum of both these columns. So we're doing 6420 over 80 to work out the mean weight. So this gives me a value of 80.25, and it's going to be grams here, and we don't need to round it since it's continuous data. 80.25 grams. Next, we're going to work out the modal class interval, so which class has the highest frequency. So if we look from the table, it's 27, so it's going to be the 80 to 90 range. So 80 less than equal to W less than 90. Now similar to the previous example, to find the class interval that contains the median, we first need a CF column where we add the frequencies. So 5 add 9 is 14, add 22 is 36, then it's 63, then it's 80. Now remember, the median is at the n plus 1 over 2 value. So we've got 80 plus 1 over 2, which is the 40.5 value, so we're between 40 and 41. Now from our table, we can see the third row has numbers from 15 to 36, but the fourth row has the numbers from 37 to 63, and that row is going to include both 40 and 41. So 80 to 90 is going to be the value of our median. Just like with the modal class, it's 80 to 90, and that's our answer there.